When the diplomatic vessel Silverwing returned to the Galactic Council, the news spread faster than light. Every media hub, every colony, and every star station spoke of one name: humanity. Some were thrilled. Others were afraid. The council chambers filled with debate. How could they survive alone for centuries? Asked one delegate. Are they here to reclaim the galaxy? Questioned another. Only a few spoke calmly, like Tirka, who said, They are here to warn us, and if we ignore them, it may be our last mistake. But politics was never quick. The council decided to study the situation further, sending out observers and data collectors. In the meantime, the message from the humans was clear. A danger was coming still. Many dismissed it as an old myth. Just another story from the mysterious void frontier. The calm before the storm on the planet Haven's Reach. The Terran vanguard continued their quiet work. Machines built new factories, refitted ships, and scanned deep space for signs of the approaching danger. The human fleet had grown powerful, but not through aggression. It had grown through unity, survival, and learning from endless mistakes. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Solaris Prime, watching the stars outside the viewport. He had seen countless battles in his lifetime, yet peace always felt heavier than war. A young officer approached him. Sir, the council has not responded to our full warning. Should we prepare for their arrival? Ward sighed. No, Lieutenant. They will come when the threat reaches them. Until then, we stand ready. He turned to the holographic projection showing the outer sectors. The swarm nexus and the mysterious dark force that consumed entire regions was expanding. It moved slowly, like a shadow crawling across the stars. Every day we wait, he murmured, it grows stronger. Tirka's returned. Tirka had tried her best to convince the council, but many of the elders did not believe her. They exaggerate, said one. The humans always speak of war and fear. Another added, we cannot trust them. They disappeared for centuries, now they return with stories of danger. But Tirka could not let it go. She requested permission to return to Haven's Reach, saying, If they are lying, I will expose them. But if they are telling the truth, I want to stand with them. Reluctantly, the council agreed. When she arrived back on Haven's Reach, Ward welcomed her warmly. You came back, he said. I had to, she replied. They don't believe you. They think it's just another human story. Ward smiled sadly. That's what they always thought of us, and just stories. She followed him into a large command hall filled with glowing blue screens. What she saw made her speechless. The hidden fleet beyond the horizon of Haven's Reach floated hundreds of human ships, sleek and silent. Some were small patrol craft, others massive carriers and research vessels. They were unlike anything Tirka had seen. The designs were old in spirit but new in purpose, shaped for endurance, not destruction. These are your warships? She asked. Ward nodded. Yes, but we call them Guardians. Every one of these ships was built to protect, not to invade. We have learned that power without reason brings ruin. Humanity paid that price long ago. He led her to a platform overlooking a hangar. Inside, rows of smaller ships, vanguard runners, stood ready. Their pilots moved with quiet discipline, checking systems, repairing engines, and speaking in low voices. Tirka noticed something in their expressions. Not pride or anger, but purpose, Ward continued. For years we fought the swarm alone. It took worlds from us. It devoured light and left silence behind. We lost many, but we endured. Because that's what humans do. We endure. Signs in the dark back on the Solaris Prime, sensors began to flicker. The communication officer frowned. Sir, we're detecting energy surges in the outer belt. Same pattern as the swarm signatures. Ward's eyes narrowed. How far? About 4 sectors from here, maybe less. He straightened. It's closer than we thought. He turned to Tirka. You should leave. Return to your council and tell them this. The swarm is not coming. It's already here. Tirka shook her head. No, Captain. I'm staying. If I leave now, they will think I'm running from ghosts. I will stay and record everything. Ward studied her for a moment, then nodded. Very well. But remember, when it begins, we do not fight for glory. We fight to protect everyone, even those who doubt us. First contact with the threat. The first sign of the approaching danger was not a battle, but silence. A nearby mining station stopped transmitting. Then another. Ships sent to investigate simply vanished. The Terran vanguard sent out a small scout group. Hours passed. Then the transmission came, and faint, broken, but clear enough. Dark field. Moving like mist, no life. Systems fading. Then nothing. Ward stared at the signal and felt a chill. He had seen this pattern before, long ago when the swarm had first appeared beyond the frontier. It didn't attack in the usual way. It absorbed. It consumed energy until ships shut down completely. He turned to his officers. "We begin evacuation protocols." All civilian outposts pull back to Haven's Reach. Prepare the defense grid. The command center came alive with quiet urgency. Tirka stood beside him, recording every detail. "You've faced this before," she said softly. "Yes," Ward answered. "And it always starts the same way. Silence." The Council's realization far away in the Council chambers, a sudden wave of alerts filled the central hub. Multiple outposts near the Void Frontier had gone dark. Communication officers tried to reconnect, but no response came. One of the generals looked uneasy. Could it be this swarm the humans warned us about? The chairman frowned. "Send a fleet to investigate. A small one. We don't want to alarm anyone." But by the time they sent ships, the void had already spread. Their vessels found only drifting. Debris and strange energy fields. The Council could no longer deny it. Something dangerous was truly approaching, and the only ones who seemed prepared were the humanities. New purpose days later, the Solaris Prime fleet gathered above Haven's Reach. Hundreds of ships formed formation lines, glowing with blue light against the blackness of space. Tirka stood beside Ward as he spoke to his people through the communication channel. "Brothers and sisters of Earth," his voice echoed across the fleet. "We were forgotten, but not gone. We were broken, but not beaten. We carry within us the will of those who came before. The strength to protect not just ourselves, but every living world that fears the dark. The galaxy may doubt us, but we will show them what it means to stand together." The fleet responded in unison, a single voice saying, "For humanity, for life." Tirka watched in awe. She finally understood what made humans different. It wasn't just their technology or courage, it was their unshakable spirit. Even when no one believed in them, they believed in themselves. Ward turned to her. "When this begins, we'll need every ally we can find. Tell your council what you saw. Tell them we are ready to stand with them, not above them." She nodded. "They will listen now." They must. The coming storm. As the human fleet prepared, the edge of the void frontier glowed faintly, not with light, but with darkness. Energy readings spiked across every scanner. The swarm was coming. Ward stood silent for a moment, watching the dark wave spread like a shadow over the stars. Then he spoke softly, almost to himself. "So it begins again, but this time we are not alone." He raised his hand and the signal went out across every Terran ship. Engines roared quietly to life, shields activated, and the fleet turned toward the darkness. From the surface of Haven's Reach, Tirka watched the sky light up with hundreds of blue trails. Humanity rising once more to defend not only themselves, but the entire galaxy that once forgot them. And so, as the stars trembled with the arrival of something ancient and terrible, the galaxy realized one truth: humanity had returned. Not as conquerors, not as ghosts, but as guardians. The edge of the void frontier shimmered like a dark storm against the stars. The swarm nexus had grown, spreading faster than anyone in the council had imagined. Entire sectors went silent, drifting in eerie emptiness. On Haven's Reach, Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of Solaris Prime, flanked by his top officers. The Terran Vanguard fleet had assembled into perfect formation. Hundreds of ships glowed blue in the darkness, each one humming with energy and precision. "This is it," Ward said, his voice calm but firm. "We've trained for this. We've waited for this. Today we protect every star, every world, every life in the galaxy." Tirka, standing nearby, could feel the tension. She watched human pilots move through the control decks with a quiet confidence that was almost frightening in its calmness. Every gesture was precise, every order clear. This was not the reckless humanity of old. This was disciplined, united, and determined humanity. The first encounter, as the fleet approached the outer sectors, their sensors detected something unusual. The swarm's energy signature formed a massive, irregular wave, spreading across several parsecs. The anomaly was unlike anything Tirka had seen. A shifting mass of energy that seemed alive, moving as a single organism. Ward's first officer, Commander Lyra, reported, Captain, the swarm has split into multiple streams. It's trying to surround us, Ward nodded. Good, let them come. We'll meet them in the open. The first contact was sudden. A stream of the swarm's energy swept toward the Vanguard fleet. Ships tried to evade, but the swarm absorbed energy wherever it touched, causing minor systems to fail temporarily. Tirka held onto the railing of the bridge. It's intelligent in its movement, she whispered. Ward replied. It's not thinking, Tirka. It reacts, it adapts, but it underestimates us. We've learned more in a century than they could ever imagine. With a calm gesture, he commanded, Deploy the stabilizers. Engage the magnetic shields. Blue energy arcs formed around each ship, protective fields shimmering against the darkness of the swarm. Slowly, the human fleet pushed forward, using their formations to channel and disperse the energy waves. Human tactics. The Vanguard fleet moved like a single organism. Each ship had a role. Some absorbed energy to protect smaller vessels. Others projected counter-energy pulses to destabilize the swarm's streams. Ward had spent decades perfecting these strategies. Every human officer understood the plan without hesitation. No hesitation. No fear. Look at them, Tirka whispered to Lyra, who had joined her on the bridge. They are flawless, Lyra nodded. It's more than skill. It's willpower. They fight not for glory, not for power, but for survival and for others. The swarm pressed harder, its tendrils of dark energy wrapping around fleets of smaller ships. At first, minor vessels began to falter, their systems flickering. But the Vanguard shifted formations, creating protective layers of larger ships that shielded the smaller craft. Focus on the core streams, Ward ordered. Divide and contain. We do not attack blindly. The swarm responded unpredictably, splitting into new paths to avoid the shields. But humans adapted faster. Their ships bent space slightly, creating new channels for their own movement. It was a dance of light and shadow, precision and reaction. Tirka could not stop staring. She realized something important. Humans had learned from their mistakes. Every human in the fleet moved as if they were part of one mind, each understanding the goal without confusion or hesitation. Alien allies. Join the Council had finally realized the urgency of the situation. Fleets from multiple species arrived to assist, though they were hesitant to follow human leadership. Humans welcomed them but kept control of the battle strategy. Ward addressed the aliens through the universal channel. We do not seek command. We seek cooperation. Follow our formations. Use your strengths. Protect each other. Together we can withstand the darkness. The alien fleets fell into line beside the Terran ships. Some species provided shielding technology unknown to humans. Others contributed speed and maneuverability. Tirka marveled at the collaboration. For the first time, humans and other species worked as a unified force against a common threat. The swarm strikes, despite the combined fleets, the swarm advanced. Entire planets and nearby systems lost communication. Energy tendrils struck fleets, forcing smaller ships to retreat temporarily. The galaxy felt the terror of potential annihilation, but Ward remained calm. He moved Solaris Prime directly into the thickest part of the swarm. We cannot falter, he said. Hold the line. Protect life, not victory. The humans executed a maneuver that Tirka would later call legendary, the spiral containment. Human ships moved in precise arcs, drawing the swarm's energy into isolated loops, allowing the alien fleets to escape the immediate threat. The dark energy twisted and surged but could not break the human formation. From the bridge, Ward's eyes never left the swarm. Now, he commanded, channel every pulse to the core. Focus all energy. Across hundreds of ships, blue light flared. The swarm's energy streams clashed against the human pulse. There was a moment of stillness, then the swarm recoiled. Tirka felt the shock waves through the ship. They're pushing it back, she whispered, disbelief in her voice. Yes, Ward replied calmly. We've done it before, and we will do it again. A moment of reflection during a temporary pause in the battle, Tirka walked along the observation deck. She watched humans preparing for the next phase. Pilots checked controls. Engineers recalibrated shields. Officers coordinated tactics. She approached Ward, who stood alone, looking out into space. How did humanity survive all those years in the void frontier? She asked. Ward smiled faintly. We learned patience, Tirka. We learned to endure. We learned to protect one another. The galaxy may have forgotten us, but we never forgot ourselves. That is the difference. Tirka realized the truth. Humans were not the reckless species she had read about in old history books. They were stronger, wiser, tempered by time and experience. The turning point. The battle resumed. The swarm nexus tried to regroup and strike again, sending massive energy waves toward the fleets. But the humans anticipated each move. They adjusted formations, rotated shields, and moved at angles that caused the swarm's energy to scatter harmlessly into empty space. Alien observers were amazed. They had never seen such coordination or courage. Where their fleets might have panicked, humans adapted with clarity and calm. Ward's voice echoed across the communication channel. We do not retreat. We do not yield. The galaxy has survived storms before, and it will survive this one too. Stand with us and together we will prevail. The alien fleets responded with renewed strength inspired by the humans' courage. Victory, for now hours passed, and the first wave of the swarm was driven back. The fleets formed a protective ring around Haven's Reach and nearby systems. Damage was minimal thanks to careful coordination. Tirka recorded every detail. This is humanity at its finest, she thought. Not seeking glory but protecting life. That is why they were never truly gone. That is why the galaxy will remember them. Ward turned to Tirka. The swarm will return stronger. But now the Council sees our strength. The galaxy knows we are ready. She nodded. Yes, Captain. And we will make sure everyone knows the truth about your people. Humanity is not extinct. Humanity protects. Humanity inspires. The blue lights of the Terran fleet shone brightly against the dark void. Ships hovered, shields active, systems humming. Humanity had returned not as conquerors but as guardians. And in that moment the galaxy glimpsed hope. The first true hope it had seen in centuries. A new dawn approaches as the sun rose over Haven's Reach. The planet glowed with renewed life. Humans and aliens worked together to repair minor damages from the battle. Children watched the ships in orbit, dreaming of the stars. Pilots prepared for the next mission, knowing the swarm nexus would return. Ward stood on the balcony, watching the fleets and the horizon. We fought today, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy will need every hand, every mind, and every heart. Humanity has returned, and we will not leave again. Tirka recorded the moment in her log. The galaxy will remember this day. Humanity is not a story from the past. Humanity is alive. Humanity inspires courage where fear once ruled. And with the vanguard here, the darkness cannot claim the stars. And so even as the swarm nexus receded temporarily, the galaxy knew one truth that would never be forgotten. Humanity had returned. Humanity protected. Humanity endured. The galaxy held its breath. After the first wave of the swarm nexus had been repelled, silence returned across the outer sectors. But it was a tense silence filled with anticipation. Every fleet, every colony, every species knew that the dark storm would not rest. On Haven's Reach, Captain Elias Ward and the Terran Vanguard prepared for the final confrontation. The fleet had grown since the first encounter. Hundreds of ships now floated in precise formations, powered by advanced energy cores and coordinated by human minds trained for decades in strategy and unity. Tirka walked alongside Ward on the observation deck of the Solaris Prime, her eyes tracing the lines of blue-lit vessels stretching across orbit. It's breathtaking, she said. All this? To face the swarm, Ward nodded. We've prepared for this moment our entire lives. We fought in the shadows for centuries. Now the galaxy must see what humanity has become. The approach of darkness sensors detected movement on the edge of the void frontier. The swarm nexus advanced steadily, stretching like a dark river through the stars. Its energy pulses were larger, stronger, and more chaotic than before. Ward turned to his officers. This is it. Today we decide the fate of the frontier sectors. Maintain formation. Protect civilians, stay calm. And remember, we do not fight for revenge. We fight for life. Tirka felt a shiver run through her. Even with all the preparation, the swarm's presence was overwhelming. She glanced at the alien fleets gathered alongside the humans. Hesitation and doubt lingered in their eyes, but Ward's confidence seemed to radiate outward, steadying them. The final battle begins. The first tendrils of the swarm struck like a tidal wave, moving faster and with more intensity than the previous encounter. Ships shuddered as energy streams brushed their shields. But this time, the humans were ready. Ward gave the command. Deploy the vortex shields. Focus all stabilizers on the forward arcs. Remember your training. Blue energy spread across the fleet like a net, absorbing and redirecting the swarm's pulses. The smaller ships darted through openings, drawing the swarm into controlled paths. It was a dance of strategy, precision, and patience. Tirka watched as human pilots moved with synchronized grace, each knowing exactly where to be, how to adjust, and when to act. They are incredible, she whispered. Not just strong, but perfectly united. Alliance in action. For the first time, alien fleets worked seamlessly with humanity. The Zynar shield ships projected protective barriers that amplified human shields. Avarian speed vessels guided larger Terran ships through narrow maneuvers. Each species used its strengths while following human strategy. Ward's voice echoed through the fleet. Do not scatter. Do not panic. Protect each other. Life is more precious than pride. We are guardians, and guardians never give up. The aliens responded with renewed determination. Where fear had existed, now courage and trust flourished. Tirka realized something profound. Humanity's leadership wasn't about domination. It was about inspiring others to believe they could survive together. The heart of the swarm hours into the battle. The swarm's core became visible on sensors, a massive concentration of dark energy pulsing like a starless sun. Its movement suggested that it could adapt, restructure, and overwhelm any fleet not perfectly coordinated. Ward addressed the combined forces. The core is unstable. We do not destroy it with brute force. We contain it, redirect its energy, and isolate it. Follow our formations and trust in your fellow crews. Tirka watched the humans prepare for the crucial maneuver, the spiral containment, an intricate formation designed to trap the swarm nexus in a loop of controlled energy. Every ship, human and alien alike, had a precise role. Timing, position, and focus had to be perfect. Now, Ward commanded, begin containment. The spiral containment blue arcs of energy flared as ships moved into spiral patterns. The swarm twisted and pulsed, attempting to break free. Its energy waves struck the edges of the formation but were redirected harmlessly into empty space. The human fleet adjusted constantly, anticipating the swarm's shifts with extraordinary precision. Every decision was calculated, every movement synchronized. Alien allies marveled at the clarity and calm of the Terran vanguard. Tirka held her breath. The spiraling ships glowed against the darkness. It was a display of unity and determination that she knew would be remembered for centuries. Ward's voice was steady over the comms. Hold the line. Trust each other. Life depends on our courage today. The swarm pulsed harder, trying to escape the spiral. Small ships were jostled, systems flickered, but no one faltered. The humans and their allies held fast. The sacrifice of the vanguard at the center of the spiral. The Solaris Prime and its flagship companions projected immense energy pulses, drawing the swarm's core toward a designated point in space, a massive black hole called the Silent Maw. Ward addressed his crew, quietly but firmly. This is our moment. We act not for ourselves but for the galaxy. Execute the final sequence. Life depends on it. Engines roared as the flagship and support vessels pushed forward. Energy streams from the swarm collided with the human pulses, twisting and bending under precise control. Slowly, the dark mass began to compress, drawn into the black hole's gravity. Tirka's heart raced. She realized the magnitude of what they were doing. Humans, once believed extinct, were now the saviors of countless worlds. Victory and loss. With a final pulse, the swarm nexus was pulled into the black hole. Sensors showed its energy dispersing, neutralized by gravity. Silence returned across the battlefield. Cheers erupted among the fleets, but Ward did not smile. He remained focused, ensuring all ships were accounted for. Damage reports were checked, survivors accounted for. Humanity had led the fight, but every life mattered, human and alien alike. Tirka recorded the moment in her log. The swarm nexus is defeated. Humanity led the way, not through dominance, but through courage, precision, and unity. The galaxy is saved thanks to their spirit. A galaxy-inspired news of the victory spread quickly. Planets long abandoned began to recover. Alien species sent emissaries to Haven's Reach, offering friendship and alliance. The Council formally recognized humanity's return, not as conquerors, but as guardians of life. Tirka walked through the bustling cities of Haven's Reach, now alive with reconstruction and hope. Children played near parks built by humans and aliens together. Scholars exchanged knowledge. Engineers repaired ships and infrastructure. The once quiet planet had become a hub of activity, a symbol of cooperation. Ward spoke to Tirka quietly. We fought not to be remembered. We fought to protect. If the galaxy learned nothing else, it learned that unity is stronger than fear. Tirka nodded. They will remember, Captain. Humanity has proven its worth not just in power but in heart. The last signal weeks later, Tirka returned to her observation post. Her console beeped with a new message, a human transmission encoded in the same style as the one she had received months ago. She decoded it and smiled. It read, "The vanguard endures. Humanity watches. We are not gone, only waiting. When the galaxy calls, we will rise again." Tirka understood immediately. Humans were not leaving, but they would act only when needed. They were guardians of life, patient and wise. The new dawn as the sun rose over Haven's Reach, the blue glow of Terran ships reflected across the planet's seas and cities. Ward stood on the balcony watching fleets glide above in silent harmony. He spoke softly to no one in particular. We were lost once. The galaxy thought us extinct, but we endured. And now we will always be here. A shield in the dark, a light in the void. Tirka, watching from the observation deck, felt a sense of awe. The humans she had thought extinct were alive, stronger and wiser than history ever told. They had faced darkness alone, adapted, and returned not for glory but for protection. The galaxy had witnessed the true meaning of courage, unity, and endurance. Humanity had returned, not as legends or ghosts, but as the guardians of a new dawn. And in that dawn, every world, every species, and every star understood one timeless truth. Humanity endures. Humanity protects. Humanity inspires. The great training world of DEATHWORLD stood at the center of the Galactic Union, a shining planet where the best warriors, engineers, and pilots from every intelligent species came to train. Its skies glowed with twin suns, and the horizon was filled with tall silver towers that reached into the clouds. Every year, the Union chose new cadets from different planets to study there. Among the new arrivals was a group of humans, a young species that had only recently joined the stars. Most aliens had never seen a human before. They had heard stories, of course, stories about fragile bodies and soft skin, about a species that needed oxygen masks on half the worlds and could barely lift what other species considered lightweight. Some said humans were smart. Others said they were only curious animals lucky enough to invent spaceships. When the transport shuttle landed, the alien cadets stood waiting at the plaza. They were tall, strong, and colorful, some with scales that shone like glass, others with wings folded neatly against their backs, and then the humans walked out. At the front of the human group was Elias Carter, a young man from Earth. He was small compared to everyone around him, his brown hair trimmed short, and his gray uniform a little too big for his thin frame. He looked up at the other cadets, his eyes full of quiet excitement and fear mixed together. He had dreamed of this day since childhood, to stand among the stars, to learn from alien teachers, and to represent humanity with pride. But the first sound he heard from the other cadets was laughter. One of the Vorath, tall reptilian warriors, with thick tails and green armor, leaned down and said, "Is this really a soldier? He looks like a child." Another added, "Careful not to step on him. Humans break easily." The laughter spread through the crowd like a wave. Some pointed, others whispered, and even a few of the instructors smiled faintly before regaining their serious expressions. Elias stood still. His face turned slightly red, but he didn't speak. He simply nodded politely and continued walking with his group. Inside, his heart pounded. He wasn't angry, just nervous, embarrassed, and uncertain. But he also remembered the words his mother told him before he left Earth. "Let them laugh, Eli. The only answer they will understand is what you do next." So he said nothing. The first week at the academy was harder than any human could have imagined. The gravity of DEATHWORLD was 1.5 times stronger than Earth's. The air was thick, and the temperature changed quickly from hot days to freezing nights. Most humans struggled to walk at first, while other species moved easily. Each morning the cadets trained in the grand yard, a massive open field surrounded by silver walls. Here they learned combat stances, balance, and teamwork. The instructors were strict, especially Commander Voro, a tall, four-armed alien with a voice like thunder. He treated everyone equally, but equality on DEATHWORLD meant little comfort. Elias fell more times than he could count. His body wasn't built for the same drills that the stronger species did with ease. When he lifted the weighted staff, his arms trembled. When he ran the obstacle course, his lungs burned before he even reached the halfway mark. The Vorath cadets never missed a chance to comment. "Maybe humans should stick to paperwork," one said. Another joked, "If the enemy sees a human, they'll die from laughter before the fight even starts." Still, Elias didn't argue. When others mocked him, he smiled faintly and continued working. When he fell, he stood up again. And when he couldn't complete an exercise, he stayed after training to practice alone until late at night. One evening, when most cadets had returned to their quarters, Elias remained in the grand yard. The sky above was filled with stars and the soft hum of training drones moving between the towers. He was exhausted, his body sore from the day's drills. Yet he stood again, holding the practice staff, breathing slowly. He began repeating the movement forms he had learned that day. Slowly at first, step, turn, swing, block. His body moved stiffly, but with every repetition, his rhythm grew smoother. He whispered to himself, counting each move, correcting small errors. What he didn't know was that someone was watching. At the edge of the field stood Ravkor, a Threxan, one of the galaxy's most respected warrior species. The Threxans were tall and sleek, their bodies covered in dark scales that reflected the stars. They were known as natural hunters, fast and disciplined, and they rarely spoke unless necessary. Ravkor was the top cadet of the academy, strong, calm, and precise in everything he did. Many feared him, others admired him, yet he had never shown interest in any of the new species before. But tonight, his sharp eyes watched the small human move under the starlight. He saw the mistakes, yes, the weakness, the unsteady hands. But he also saw something else. Focus, determination, a kind of patience he had never seen in the stronger species who relied only on power. When Elias finally dropped the staff and sat down to rest, Ravkor quietly left without a word. The next day brought the first simulation test, a mock combat between mixed teams. The Academy wanted to see how cadets from different species worked together. Elias's team included 2 humans, 1 Vorath, and 1 Threxan, Ravkor himself. When the match began, everyone moved quickly. The Vorath charged forward, eager to prove his strength. The humans stayed behind to support. Elias studied the field carefully. He watched how the opponents moved, how they stepped before each strike. He began noticing patterns. "Don't run straight at them," he called to the Vorath. "They're setting a trap." But the Vorath ignored him, rushing ahead. Within seconds, he slipped and fell when the ground panel changed direction, a built-in trick in the simulation floor. Their team nearly lost the match. When the round ended, the Vorath grumbled. "If the human hadn't distracted me." Ravkor interrupted quietly. He was right. Everyone turned. Ravkor rarely spoke. The panel moved exactly where he warned. He saw it first. The Vorath fell silent. For the first time, the mocking laughter around Elias stopped, even if just for a moment. Later that day, while the others rested, Ravkor approached Elias in the corridor. The Threxan's voice was calm and deep. "You noticed the floor pattern before it moved," he said. "How?" Elias hesitated, unsure if it was a real question or a test. "You all fight like hunters," he said slowly. "You chase, predict, and strike. But I'm smaller, slower. I have to think differently. I imagine what the trap would look like if I were the one making it." Ravkor tilted his head slightly, studying him. "You think like prey?" "Maybe," Elias answered with a small smile. "But even prey can survive if it learns to understand the hunter. The Threxan stared for a moment longer, then gave a small nod. "Interesting," he said simply, and walked away. Elias stood in the corridor for a long time afterward, unsure if that counted as praise. But inside, he felt a small spark of pride. Someone had listened. Someone had noticed. As the weeks passed, the laughter began to fade. The other cadets still saw Elias as small and fragile, but now they also saw how he could solve problems others didn't even notice. He learned quickly, remembered every detail, and found shortcuts through difficult drills. When larger cadets got frustrated, Elias helped them calmly, offering quiet suggestions. Commander Voro observed all of this with growing interest. He began assigning Elias to planning roles in group exercises, letting him organize strategies. The results surprised everyone. Teams led by Elias often outperformed others not through strength but through coordination and timing. Ravkor continued to watch him silently from a distance. Sometimes their eyes met across the training. Yard and both would exchange a brief nod, a wordless acknowledgement of growing respect. Elias still remained the smallest, the weakest, and the most underestimated being on Zirath Prime. But every night as he looked up at the stars from his dorm window, he whispered softly to himself, "They think size is strength. They'll learn soon that strength has many shapes," and somewhere in the shadows of the Academy courtyard, a Threxan predator thought the same. Morning light spread across the silver towers of Zirath Prime. The Academy buzzed with noise, wings fluttering, boots marching, and engines humming as drones passed through the air. Every cadet hurried to the training field, each one eager to prove their worth. Among them walked Elias Carter, his steps quiet but steady. Though smaller than everyone else, he no longer looked uncertain. His uniform was still a little loose and his hands still shook after heavy drills, yet there was a calm focus in his eyes now. Around him, whispers followed as usual. But the tone had changed. Some cadets no longer laughed. They spoke in low voices filled with curiosity. The human who had once been mocked was beginning to draw attention for something other than weakness. Elias didn't seek fame. He still trained after hours, studying battle recordings and practicing alone. What truly mattered to him was learning. Learning how different minds thought, how different bodies moved, and how all of them could work together. But one pair of eyes watched him more carefully than all others, the eyes of Ravkor, the Threxan warrior. Observation Ravkor had always been confident in his abilities. As a Threxan, he was born into a species of hunters. Every motion, every breath was measured. The Threxans were known for discipline, speed, and silence. They hunted on instinct, but they fought with reason. Yet something about the human fascinated him. He had seen many species during his time at the Academy, powerful ones, graceful ones, even clever ones, but none like Elias. The human was different. Ravkor noticed that Elias never wasted a movement. When others trained with loud confidence, Elias moved quietly, studying every step like a puzzle. When others spoke of strength, Elias spoke of timing and distance. Ravkor began to understand that while he was trained to fight with the body, Elias was learning to fight with the mind. Training day that week, Commander Voro introduced a new type of exercise, adaptation drills. Each team had to switch between different environments in quick succession. One round might simulate a desert, the next a low-gravity zone, the next underwater movement. The purpose was simple, to see how fast cadets could adapt. Most species were confident. The Vorath were strong in deserts. The winged Avrians excelled in low gravity, and the Threxans performed well almost anywhere. Humans, however, were not designed for any of these extremes. When the first simulation started, Elias felt the heavy heat of the desert projection around him. The sand beneath his boots shifted with every step. The Vorath on his team moved fast, using their wide feet to stay stable, but Elias kept slipping. "Try not to fall behind, little human," one of the Vorath muttered. Elias didn't answer. He looked down at the sand, studied how it moved, and began walking differently. Shorter steps, knees bent slightly. Soon he was moving faster, more stable. Then the environment changed. Suddenly the sand vanished, replaced by floating platforms and the pull of low gravity. The cadets stumbled, their heavy bodies adjusting poorly. Elias, however, smiled. Humans had practiced in spacesuits for years. This was familiar. He pushed off lightly and glided forward, showing careful control. Commander Voro noticed and made a note on his datapad. When the final phase began, a cold, slippery ice field, Elias was ready. He crouched low, spread his balance, and used gentle movements to stay upright while others slid around. By the end of the drill, his team finished among the top 3. The Vorath looked surprised. The Avrians looked puzzled, but Ravkor only nodded quietly. After training, he approached Elias again. "You adapted faster than most," Ravkor said. Elias shrugged slightly. "Humans had to. Earth never made life easy. We learned to adjust or fail." "Interesting," the Threxan replied. "Most species rely on what they are best at. You rely on change," Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe change is what we are best at." A small test. That evening, while others rested, Ravkor invited Elias to the Silent Hall, a private chamber used for Threxan meditation and reflex training. Few outsiders were ever allowed there. "Why me?" Elias asked as they entered. The room was dim, filled with soft blue light and strange patterns on the floor. "I want to understand how you think," Ravkor replied. "You speak of weakness as if it is strength. I wish to see it." He handed Elias a wooden staff, much heavier than the ones used in human training. Elias took it with both hands, feeling its weight pull him slightly off balance. Ravkor activated a training drone, a small, floating device that fired harmless light pulses meant to test reflexes. "Defend," Ravkor said simply. The drone moved fast, shooting light bursts toward Elias. He swung the staff, deflecting what he could and dodging others. At first, he failed often. The lights hit his arm, his side, his legs, but each time he watched and learned. He noticed the pattern. He realized the drone fired based on rhythm. 1, pause, 2, pause, 3. Soon he began moving in time with it, predicting where the next pulse would appear. After several minutes, Ravkor turned off the drone. "You missed fewer shots than I expected," he said. Elias was breathing heavily but smiling. "It's not about speed," he replied. "It's about rhythm." Ravkor gave a short nod. "You see patterns where others see attacks. You use mind to fill the space your body cannot." Elias looked up. "Maybe that's what makes us human." For the first time, the Threxan's cold expression softened. "Perhaps," he said. It was a small moment, yet in the quiet of that hall, something new formed between them, the first spark of respect. A shift in perception days passed, and the atmosphere around Elias began to change. Where once there had been laughter, now there was curiosity. Some cadets even asked for his advice during simulations. Others began to train with him, realizing that his small frame hid clever insight. Elias didn't act proud. He helped whoever asked, sharing his knowledge openly. His kind and patient nature surprised many who had mocked him before. Commander Voro, always watching from afar, took note of the growing cooperation between the human and the Threxan. He quietly approved. To him, that bond represented the true goal of the Academy, unity among species. One afternoon, during a study break, Elias sat in the open courtyard reading from his tablet. The twin suns of Zerath Prime cast warm light over the stone benches. Ravkor approached and sat beside him. "You study strategy even when not required," the Threxan said. Elias nodded. "It helps me think. Every plan is a story waiting to happen. You just need to find the right ending." Ravkor looked thoughtful. "On my world, we do not plan stories. We hunt, we act. We survive. But you humans, you imagine. You create what is not yet real. That's how we survive," Elias replied softly. "We dream of what could be, not just what is." Ravkor gave a small sound that might have been a quiet laugh. "Dreams are strange weapons, human." "Maybe," Elias said. "But sometimes they hit harder than anything else." Respect earned. The next major event at the Academy was the Tactical Simulation Challenge, a team competition designed to test strategy and leadership. Each group would face an unpredictable environment filled with puzzles, obstacles, and time pressure. Commander Voro surprised everyone by naming Elias as one of the team leaders. "Me?" Elias asked in shock. Voro's 4 eyes studied him calmly. "You have earned observation. Let us see if you can command." When the challenge began, Elias stood at the center of the command room, surrounded by screens. His teammates included 2 Vorath and 1 Threxan, Ravkor. As the simulation started, The team found themselves in a maze-like structure full of shifting walls. The Vorath wanted to force their way through. Elias stopped them. "Wait," he said. "The walls move in rhythm, like the training drone. If we time it right, we can walk through without wasting energy." They hesitated but followed his plan. One by one, the moving walls opened perfectly for them. Later, when a code puzzle blocked their path, Elias noticed a repeating pattern that matched the sound frequency of the walls. Using that rhythm, he solved it faster than the system predicted. At the end of the challenge, their team achieved the highest score of the day. Commander Voro announced the results in front of the Academy. Leadership through patience. Strategy through observation. Human Cadet Elias Carter, commendation earned. The courtyard filled with quiet murmurs. Even the proudest species nodded in respect. Ravkor placed a hand on Elias's shoulder and said simply, "You lead like prey that learned to guide predators." Elias laughed softly. "Maybe I just see friends, not predators." The Threxan looked down at him for a long moment before replying, "You are an unusual human, Elias Carter." That night, as the stars shone over Zerath Prime, Ravkor watched from his dorm balcony while Elias trained alone below, repeating movements, practicing balance and breathing deeply. The Threxan thought quietly to himself. "Perhaps small does not mean weak," he said. "Perhaps small means unseen, and unseen means powerful." The predator had begun to understand the human, and the human, though still unaware, had already begun to change the galaxy around him.